Lads, lasses and the rest of the masses, welcome back to another retroactive Feeling Blue. Now today we're going to be talking about Chelsea 2, Copenhagen 1, and kind of just dissecting the game as usual. Before we do that, of course, we're going to move into the bingo. We'll do the bingo card first and kind of tick off the ones that we got. Obviously I'm doing this the morning after the game, and let me get a good colour we can actually see here. We're doing this after the morning after the game. The game's not really something that you can really talk about. It's kind of upsetting because the game overall was quite boring. It was quite pedestrian, I would suggest is the right term to use for it. And there wasn't really much that happened until the second half. We will be talking about certain things throughout the game, and obviously I'll be doing my 7 points. But first of all, let's do the bingo. We get rotated idiot. This was just for massive rotations in the side, and we did see this, so this gets ticked off. Dick's penalty, we did not see Kevin Dix get a penalty, so that goes off. We do not get a clean sheet. Cobham clears. Now this was for specifically if we get some Cobham graduates playing in this game. We actually got 2 starting, which is really nice, in Tyreek George and Maresca, so those go in. Lizzie's Tower back, this was for Big Ben, obviously being called the Elizabeth Tower, the actual tower being called that, so Benoit Badiashile made a return. We got to see that, which was nice. False Neto, we did not get to see this. Last week's scapegoat, we didn't really get to see this because we didn't really have last week's scapegoat from last week. I probably should have changed that, but that's one of the ones we constantly have on here. Caicedo booked for a clean tackle. He didn't get booked. I do need to change this because it's not actually just the card. It's mainly just for him being penalised for a clean tackle. We did see this in this game. Game of 2 halves, absolutely. I do think that both halves were similar in terms of the way that we kind of played and tried to go about the game, but I think that the second half was much more open than the first. I think that the first was, again, a bit cagey from both teams, specifically mostly from Chelsea, so this gets taken off. Unlikely goal scorer, I'm going to give this for Reece James getting a goal because he doesn't score too often, and obviously from this new midfield position that he's playing, he managed to get a goal, so that will be being ticked off. Player booked for dissent. We got so many of this. Right at the end of the game, the ref absolutely lost the plot and was handing out yellow cards left, right and centre, mainly for Copenhagen players that were kind of arguing with decisions, which is funny, so that goes off. We don't get an Amugu cameo. Maresca ball in full flow. We don't really get this either. The ref/VAR mistake, I don't think we got one of these. Enzo goal/assist, we do get one of these. It's really funny because I had the back-to-back one on there before and he hasn't done back-to-back, but then he's done back to not to back, so yeah. Nothing to worry about. Yeah, this was what this was supposed to be. I'll take this off because this was mainly for just us losing this result. I saw a lot of people kind of worrying that we weren't going to make it out of this game with a victory, and we did that quite comfortably in the end. Someone scores a worldie. I don't think there was really a worldie in this game. I wouldn't class any of those. Correct prediction. I got 1 goal off of a correct prediction here. I said 3-1. It was 2-1 in the end. Set piece goal. There was a set piece goal for Copenhagen, not for us, but for Copenhagen, so we take that off. One in Australia. Got a check. No, I'm not upside down. I'll probably take this one off at some point. It stopped doing it, which is weird. It does it so often and now it's not doing it anymore. Insanely loud crowd. Yes, we absolutely had this. The home support was very, very good. Palmer 2/goals/assists. We did not get this because he was just not very good in this game in general. I think he really needs a rest. I think he's kind of out of his depth at the moment. He kind of in his own head, which you kind of have to do. And Nkunku great ×2. Now I wouldn't say he was particularly great, but I don't think he was as bad as he usually is. So I'm going to give him. I think he had a relatively good performance, so I'll take this off. And then ahead on aggregate, we have this. We cannot get a bingo here, I don't think, unless there was a ref/VAR mistake, and I don't think that there was one. I can't think of one anyway. But yeah, let's move into the Feeling Blue now, and the points. And usually I would do these 7 points from the bad to the good, and kind of end on a positive. I'm not going to be doing that particularly today, just because I think that the whole game can kind of be summarized by the medium box that I'm going to do, because it was very much a case of Enzo Maresca, who's coming in as this medium box, really getting it wrong in the first half, but really getting it right in the second half. And again, one of these things where I think the personnel that was on the pitch at the start of the game really weren't the right selections, but I understand why he's done it. He's had to rotate. We've got a very big game against Leicester coming up on the Sunday, which I think is more important, and I think that he would value more important. Obviously, getting Champions League football next season is our main target, even though the Conference League is still a big accolade for us to get, and it would be a record-setting thing that we could do by winning that trophy. I think that Maresca really understands that the Premier League and getting us that UCL qualification is the most important thing. So for this first leg anyway, he has sacrificed some of the firepower that we had and played some players in some very weird positions, and that leads us on to our first point, because the first player that's going to go into the bad box is Malo Gusto. And I don't want to rag on him too much because, again, he has looked very, very out of his depth in terms of wherever he's played this season, whether that's playing as a left back or as a right back or as this inverted midfielder or this left 10 that we kind of saw in this game a little bit. He just really doesn't look like he knows how to play in this system, and he looks really, really far out of his depth. I would like to see him playing high and right at some point, because I think that's his best position, but I just feel like sacrificing either Neto, Madueke, or in this case, in this game, George, for that, I don't think is really the right decision either. I don't think they provide less attacking threat than Gusto does, and he doesn't really provide much of a defensive help as well when he's that high up anyway. I just really don't think that he had a good game, and it showed that not only did he have a good game, but he obviously got injured afterwards and had to come off, and he was swiftly replaced by Cucurella, who had a very, very good game. Part of this bad box isn't for Gusto, it's just for the setup and the way that he's being used. Part of it is for the fact that he got injured, and the other half is kind of just for him not really having a good cameo in this game. Hopefully he'll be back to his best after he recovers from his injury. Now, we're going to be sticking in this bad box because the next thing I want to talk about is our defense, and I'm going to be speaking in kind of general terms. I'm not going to highlight any specific player here, but it's getting very, very worrying how poor we are at holding on to leads and finishing games off, and how poor we are at defending set pieces. I think we saw a prime example of that in this game, in the fact that we were 2-0 up and we were very comfortable, and we made the end of the game a little bit more nervy just because we completely switch off at a set piece. In the first place, the free kick is conceded by Chalobah. Completely unnecessary, doesn't need to do it. And then at the back post, not sure who it is at the back post that gets lost. I know Kin and Dewsbury Hall is there, and I'm pretty sure Colwill is there, and we've highlighted how Colwill has been a bit suspect when it comes to that kind of positioning for set pieces at times. But yeah, I don't want to particularly single any one defender out, because it was just a whole calamity in general. And not just that, but even in moments in the game, especially in the second half, where they found it so easy to cut through us. There's also the chance for Clayson, I think it is, who gets a shot on his left peg and it hits the post. Luckily rebounds back to Sanchez. The fact they're just able to play one path through our entire backline is unforgivable. And yes, it's a rotated team, and yes, some of the players in the backline are players that have come back from injury and stuff like that, but still, it's not really acceptable against a team of Copenhagen's quality, especially when they've lost one of their best assets, that being Mohamed El Yunusi. He wasn't on the pitch. For them to kind of opening us up that way is just not very good. I would like to see that improve, and hopefully we see some improvements to that defense in the future. Now, I briefly mentioned him there in the bad section, so I'm going to talk about him now. I want to talk about Marc Cucurella. Again, just another good game from him, and it's kind of hard for me in this game to pick out certain players to talk about, and because again the game was so boring and so pedestrian, so there's not really much to talk about. But I think Cucurella, when he came on, he really kind of, I've always said this, that he kind of embodies the energy and the desire that the team needs to succeed, and he's been doing very, very well in his interviews and stuff recently, talking about the heart of the club and kind of playing for the badge. And I think that he's the one player that, well, not the one player, but he's one of the players that you can really see does that every single time he puts on his boots. And he did this in this game. As soon as he comes on for Gusto, we look so much better, honestly. And even though in the first half we don't really get to see the best of him, and he's kind of playing a little bit as that wide left player, and that's kind of not where we're used to seeing him. We're used to seeing him tucked in a little bit more, and playing a bit more of a kind of attacking 10 role, where I think he thrives. But even so, in the second half, I think we really got to see the best of him, kind of popping up in positions in that left-hand side, being a nuisance, obviously pressing really hard, but putting on the pressure on the back line. And we didn't really get to see much of that in this game. We usually play quite a high-pressure style. We didn't really see that pressing too much from our front line in the first half especially. It was kind of mainly us just kind of creeping up the pitch and hoping that something happened and not really making any inroads, where in the second half, we were kind of trying to force mistakes and kind of give the ball away, or make them give the ball away rather. And that's kind of what happens for our first goal. Cucurella obviously involved in some way in both of the goals, I believe. But yeah, good performance from him again. He always puts in 110%, and that's the one thing which I really like about Cucu. So he goes in here. The second player I'm going to be talking about is Tyreek George. Now, he's got his 4th assist of the season in this match, and it's good for him to be getting regular kind of goal contributions despite the low amount of minutes he's getting. And he played in numerous different positions in this game. Obviously, he started on the right hand side, very high wide. He kind of moved into the Pedro Neto false 9 position in the second half when Shim came off. And I should actually mention him real quick. I'm not gonna put him in any box. I should mention Shim, because I feel really bad for him. And again, this is part of the reason why I've docked Maresca down to bad, or down to medium rather, from the good box, because this is one of the things that really annoyed me. In the first half, we did not have enough service to Moeka and to George as well, at all. From the midfield, they just really did not help them, and obviously we play this really slow, lackadaisical style in the first half that didn't really help him get a lot of touches on the ball, get involved at all. And even when he was trying to drop deep and kind of facilitate things like that, they weren't really giving the ball to him, so I felt a bit sorry for him. And for him to be hooked at half time because of that is kind of sad. Obviously we do see improvements after he comes off the pitch. I don't think that's particularly because he wasn't on the pitch. I think it was more so because, again, we had more service from the midfield, and obviously we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I did just want to mention Moeka a little bit there, because it's good to see him getting his full debut though in this game. So that's partly that kind of, again, it's a medium thing. So it's good to see him starting. Good to see Maresca trust him enough to start. But also just a bit of a annoying thing for him to to not be being taken off in the second half. But yeah, in the second half, George was again trying to be more of a nuisance, trying to play that Pedro Neto kind of false 9 position. And even though he was allowed to drift wide and stuff, and even though he was tasked with staying central and being that 9, as it were, he was also drifting wide and trying to pick up positions. And obviously he gets the assist for the second goal, which again, really good assist from him. Plays it back to Enzo Fernandez, who scores. And yeah, this is the type of thing I want to see from young players. I want to see him not only getting the goal contributions, because obviously goal contributions are good, but also just popping up in the right place at all the time and being a threat. And I think now George has kind of started to play into Maresca's mind a little bit and actually be a player that he can rely on in a way when we need to rotate the players. And obviously that was Mudryk at one point, and obviously we're probably not going to see Mudryk for a long time considering the situation that's going on there. We still don't really have any information about that. So it's good to see George stepping up and also kind of, playing that role, and Maresca trusting him to do that role. And it's good to see him just getting on the pitch at such a young age. Hopefully he's got a lot more to give, and hopefully he can get another cameo against Leicester. Now, I briefly mentioned him there, so I'll touch on him now. I think that Enzo Fernandez is the next player to go into the good box, and I think that he genuinely was the one kind of player that really transformed the game. In terms of the difference between the first half and the second half, I would say the main reason that we kind of found it easier to get back into the half in the second half was because Enzo came on instead of Caicedo. Now, this is not anything against Caicedo, because he is a wonderful player. He does have the forward passing in his locker. He didn't show it very much in the first half, and Enzo came on and was trying to be that player to kind of facilitate play and play the ball forward, especially when we're playing a team that is very much set on playing a low block. We really need the creative output from the deeper players, and obviously Cole Palmer's trying to do that, and he's missing the mark a little bit. Again, he's not in very good form, but Enzo has been in very good form, and again, he gets another goal here. I think he's about 4 goal contributions away from his best ever season, that being when he was back at River Plate, I believe. So yeah, very good from Fernandez, not only coming on and kind of changing the game and being that kind of player that's trying to play the ball forward, but obviously getting the second goal to really kind of eventually being the winning goal from a further up position when we kind of see him playing as I've said this in the last few weeks. He plays in 3 different positions. He plays as a 6 or a 5, an 8 and a 10, and he gets into that 10 position and scores a very, very good goal once again. So yeah, Enzo gets in here. I know that's very brief, but there's just not very much I can say about this game other than that. There's just not too many players to talk about, but the one player that we will talk about next, and is the final player for this this video, is going to be Reece James, our captain. It's very good to see him not only fit and playing so many games, but also being able to play a full 90 here, or playing a full 90 here, getting a goal from a deeper position, and also just be looking so comfortable in a midfield position. Obviously, we know he can play there. We saw how good he was for Wigan when he played there on loan. But under Maresca, he has not really shown the qualities as much. He's shown the defensive qualities, of course, because he always has, but he hasn't really shown that kind of midfield, kind of intuition of how to get the ball forward and how to progress us forward. And I think in the first half as well, I was kind of speaking about how we didn't have that much creativity. I felt that him being on the left hand side really stifled any ability for him to kind of facilitate things from that left hand side. If he was on the right, I think he would have been much better suited to kind of being able to get forward, you know, put those early crosses into the box, that type of thing. But he really couldn't do it from the left hand side, and it kind of ended up with him just passing it to Gusto on the left or Cucurella on the left and trying to hope that him or Nkunku could really do anything. But as I said, when it went into the second half, I feel like he did he kind of changed how he had to play. Obviously, when you're playing on the left-hand side, you can't, and you're a right-footed player, you have to cut inside. You have to be playing it across the pitch, and he really did that in this game. And obviously, he gets his goal from that position. The ball obviously falls to him. It's poked towards him. I forget who actually assists him in this. It might be Cuckoo. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure who it was in the end. But the ball falls to him on the edge of the box, and it's a good strike, low, hard into the bottom left corner. Goalkeeper probably unsighted from his defender and could have done better, admittedly, but you have to put them on target for them to go in. That's exactly what James did. He gets the first goal, gets us ahead, and that kind of setting that precedent, especially as the captain and also our vice captain as well, these two being the ones that are getting our goals, showing that leadership to kind of say, hey, we're going to win this game, let's not play slow, let's actually, you know, take shots on target. And I believe his shot was the first shot on target that we had in the entire game, and it goes in. So good way to kind of get into the game, to be able to finally get a shot off on target and just to go in and trying to, now that we had a goal, Copenhagen kind of had to come back at us and, you know, like actually open up a little bit more. And that's from that moment on was when the game got a little bit more open, because the first half again was really boring, really lackadaisical, very pedestrian. Second half was a little bit more open, and we kind of see that after James gets his goal. And that allows us to get the second goal as well, because we're able to, again, navigate it down the left-hand side, cut it back into a similar position, and then Fernandez can score the second goal. And then we go 2-0 up, and it's like, cool, we've put this tie to bed in a way, until, again, we concede a sloppy set-piece goal. But, yes. We move on to Leicester on Sunday, and hopefully we can get another 3 points to keep us in the fight for top 4. Hopefully, again, when the reverse fixture comes around at Stamford Bridge, we can put in a little bit more of a better performance here than we saw last night. So yeah, I think we will win this tie and go through to the next round. Hopefully we can see another good performance from the Blues, not only on Sunday, but in that reverse fixture. But if you can't wait until then, perhaps check out this video in the meantime. Thank you guys so much for watching as ever, and remember, in the rain or in the dry, keep that blue flag flying high. Come on, you Blues.